When I was in high school, I didn't study any computer science. I know many Israeli students do like a bagrut, like a final examination in areas of technology that are adjacent to computer science and cybersecurity. I actually wanted to be an aeronautics engineer. I wanted to build airplanes and airplane-related stuff, like a spaceship. I don't know what I wanted to do back then. But I kind of stumbled into computer science when I studied some computer science classes throughout Talpiot, the program that I attended within the IDF. And I realized that you can basically write things with your keyboard and solve problems, which was quite awesome to me. So,
welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. 20-Minute Leaders is a proud supporter of Make-A-Wish Israel and Tech to Peace, and is in proud collaboration with Secret Chord Ventures, J Ventures, Riverside FM, Fusion VC, Birthright Excel, J Impact, Leap, Google for Startups, and Hippo, and in media partnership with CTech. Liat Hayun, welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. I'm so excited and honored to have these 20 minutes with you. So thank you for spending this time with me. How are you?
thanks for having me. I'm great. All else considering, everything is great.
Yes. Well, we are recording this episode at a difficult time. Our country is in war. But over these 20 minutes, we're going to be celebrating entrepreneurship, and we're going to be celebrating curiosity and inspiration. So I'm looking forward to this beacon of light over these 20 minutes. And Liat, your background is awesome. You said that right. We have a lot of shared passions and shared interests, and so I am obviously very objective. But I'm excited to hear a little bit about your journey. You're an important figure in the cybersecurity landscape with an incredible background from the IDF to Palo Alto Networks to today your own startup, Eureka Security. I'd love to go back a little bit to the early days of your intersection to the world of cybersecurity. How did that happen? Where are you from?
It happened almost by accident, if I have to be honest. When I was in high school, I didn't study any computer science. I know many Israeli students do like a bagrut, like a final examination in areas of technology that are adjacent to computer science and cybersecurity. I actually wanted to be an aeronautics engineer. I wanted to build airplanes and airplane-related stuff, like a spaceship. I don't know what I wanted to do back then. But I kind of stumbled into computer science when I studied some computer science classes throughout Talpiot, the program that I attended within the IDF. And I realized that you can basically write things with your keyboard and solve problems, which was quite awesome to me. So ever since I was 18, I was drawn into this world of problem solving through software, and later on understanding that you can divert how software behaves to make it do the things that you want it to do, and through that into cybersecurity. So that's how my passion to computer science and cybersecurity started. Needless to say, so many years later, I don't want to mention how many, but I'm still very passionate about problem solving and cybersecurity, and the combination of those two things is what I dedicate my life to.
And so your excitement around not only software but cybersecurity more broadly, tell me a little bit about that. There's a lot of different areas in which you can employ skills through software to make an impact and to solve cool problems. What is it about the cybersecurity landscape that really sparked your interest?
So I think for many, many of us in the Israeli cybersecurity community, especially entrepreneurs, have started in units in the IDF that are very much focused on cybersecurity. I can't really talk about what that means or what we've done back then, but we've solved amazing challenges throughout software and throughout code. And that has lit up a spark that I think many of us in the cybersecurity community share around doing impossible things or things that are considered impossible through software, through cybersecurity. I think the combination of that for me with the understanding, I've grown up in the early 2000s. So really in the climax of the technological revolution. I remember, my first phone was a regular touch phone, like with keypads and everything. And we've seen that development of how technology is now a part of every aspect of our lives. So the combination of the passion to the technology itself and problem solving with the understanding that the cyber world, the technology is where all of our lives are in, where our bank accounts are in, where all of our social connections are in, where our work is in, led me to strive to secure that way of life for us. So that is what I've been doing.
Phenomenal. I love that. And I think that one of the interesting aspects, I guess, that fascinated me about cybersecurity is that it has often, I think, a faster pace of evolution than perhaps a lot of other industries because of the nature of the tug of war play, and because of the market dynamics that enforce this quick action reaction play. And so I think that, and perhaps for competitive people, and I have a feeling that you're a little bit competitive just from the first 4 minutes of our conversation. Well, tell me a little bit about your experience at Palo Alto Networks, and then leading into the founding of Eureka Security.
Yeah. So maybe before I dive into that and kind of gives context to that, I think in relation to what you just said, I think there are two, for people in general, there are two driving factors. There's the overall vision of what you want to do with your life, and then there's the day-to-day. So I think, the overall vision is that, what is it that I want to focus my life, what I want to dedicate my professional career to, and that part we talked about. And then obviously on a day-to-day basis, there is the kind of, you can't really rest. You always have to keep up with new innovation and new technologies and new competitors, and that makes the day-to-day that much more exciting. And that actually brings me into my career at Palo Alto Networks. So I started out within the IDF in very technical roles. I was a software developer, team leader, and group leader later on. But when I wanted to better understand the dynamics of an actual market, I decided to switch into product management. So my first role after the IDF, after leading a group of a few dozen software engineers, was actually to become a product manager, one of many in the team. And they wanted to do that because understanding that dynamics of the market, of what you choose to focus your efforts on the competitive landscape and so on, is really what I wanted to now understand. I felt like, tech would be tech wherever you go, but it's that understanding of the market that I was missing. So I was very fortunate to join Palo Alto Networks at a time where it was rapidly growing. I joined Palo Alto Networks about a year after its first acquisition in Israel. So with Tel Aviv office, I was the 80th employee. The day of this recording, I think there are about 1,000 employees in the Palo Alto Networks offices, and that's before a couple of new acquisitions that are yet to announce. So it was this time of this huge growth, both from an organizational perspective and also a few very significant transformations in terms of the areas of focus for Palo Alto Networks. First and foremost, the transformation within the product that I was a part of. I was within the endpoint security product, focused very much on exploit prevention and kind of very advanced things, to the next generation antivirus, into EDR, into what is now known as XDR. So various revolutions and transformations on that side, a significant transformation from on-prem to cloud, both in terms of the focus of what needs to be protected as well as how it needs to be managed. And again, I was very fortunate to be a part of that. I kind of think about that like sitting on top of a balloon that keeps growing and kind of being able to grow with it.
I love that. That's so cool. And it must have been so awesome being as part of this rocket ship and seeing it grow. And not only, it's such both a rocket ship in terms of human capital and growth of a company, but also technologically, really being at the bleeding edge of, these complex technological endeavors. So you can sense a little bit of jealousy from my end. So it sounds really, really great.
You're hiring.
The founding of Eureka, what happened there?
So needless to say, I very much loved working at Palo Alto Networks. So leaving Palo Alto Networks, After 6 years requires, at many points in time, I was asked about or offered different options to explore. But you can imagine the level of conviction that I needed to get to for me to decide to make that move. And that level of conviction was the way I got into that was kind of, I would say, two main factors. So to understand the first one, maybe just to give you a bit of context around what I did, what was my last role at Palo Alto Networks. So I spent 6 years at Palo Alto Networks. 4 out of those were very much focused on kind of the evolution of endpoint security, as I said. And then for the last couple of years at Palo Alto Networks, I was actually leading and creating what was then known as the threat hunting service. So again, just a bit of context for the listeners. Threat hunting is a methodology in cybersecurity where you actively search for any existing threats within the environment that were not identified by the variety of tools that are out there. So you need to sift through a lot of data and identify anomalous activities and suspicious behaviors and so on. Large organizations, like the largest banks of America, would have threat hunters working full-time for them, but not many organizations can do that, which is why Palo Alto Networks decided to go into that space. Awesome. So I was leading this service, and we were sitting on a pile of data, like a ton of data that we were able to look through to identify those threats. And you can imagine how valuable that data was for other teams in the organization. Machine learning engineers and data scientists and product managers and product analysts and the researchers, everyone wanted to use that data to gain insights. But Palo Alto Networks, being a very secure company, has limited access to that data quite significantly. So if someone wanted to ask a question as it relates to that data, they needed to ask me. So I would literally get scripts over email with someone, hey, can you run the script for me to run an analysis? And I would return the result. And then a day later, I would get a fixed script because they wanted to shift the algorithm a little bit. And that drove me crazy. So I turned to Asaf, which is now my co-founder, a very good friend of mine. We've served together back in the IDF and have worked together at Palo Alto Networks.
Wow.
He left to work at Microsoft. And I talked to him and I told him, Asaf, how do you do this at Microsoft? Like, you also have a lot of data. You also want this data to fuel the organization, but you're struggling to do so because I'm sure Microsoft is as secure, if not more, than Palo Alto Networks. And he said, honestly, we have the same issue. So the combination of having a problem that we were passionate about, that we felt firsthand, and we thought could make a big impact, with the combined with Asaf's desire to solve it with me, was what led to the creation of Eureka. We both decided this would be a great opportunity for us to work together again after not working together for a few years. And that led to Eureka being created.
Incredible. And so first-time CEO, right? Co-founder, you've had a lot of experience now in different complex environments and different experiences. What has the experience been like, in the early days? So, what shifts did you realize you were making as now a leader and as a CEO? What surprised you? What didn't surprise you?
So I think that there are two major ones. One is more on the product and technical side, and the other is more on kind of the company building side.
Yeah.
So on the technical side, we kind of assumed, and just being a part of organizations like the IDF and Palo Alto Networks, obviously not small organizations, not ones that prioritize business and agility over other things, we kind of thought that the problem we were seeing is the problem that many organizations would have. And the first realization we had very early on in the first few months of kind of the validation process was that most organizations actually have the opposite problem. They allow too much access to data, too much data to be used, too much data to move around different environments for different use cases, that their problem is controlling that. So obviously we've kind of shifted the way we positioned the problem statement and the way we built the product to not just enable organizations more flexibility, but rather to allow security teams to control the chaos that has been created by that flexibility. And that is in many ways, you hear about startups that start day one, they have one solution or one idea, and 2 years later, they're doing something completely different. We are not one of those. I could basically use the same deck that I used month 3 into the startup as we do today, year 2, or starting year 3 into our startup. So that's from a product perspective. from a company building perspective, I think, a lot of us, especially in Israel, a lot of us come into entrepreneurship from a very technical background. I had the privilege of having a bit of a broader background, given that product management works more with customers, work with customer success and support and marketing. So I had these interfaces into other organizations. I knew what their job was. I understood what it means, but I never created these organizations and I never managed them. So I think, it required me to develop this new sense of curiosity, not just towards the technical stuff, but also towards the surrounding functions. It is now my role as much as any other. And to find the right mentors along the way, whether if they are employees in the company or if they're founders that have gone through this journey before, to be able to rely on and learn from. It's not something that you're born with, no matter how significant your background is. There are some things you're better at.
So right before we get more into the product and the offering, from a values perspective and the culture that you're building out, you've had experience with different environments and we talked about sort of this. The passion, the curiosity for the field, but also the types of problems that you yourself enjoy solving. What was important for you in building the culture of Eureka? What were some of the key elements that you identified either early on or now that you're saying, wow, this is a place I want to lead and work at. This is the type of team that is going to be able to own up to this challenge that we've undertaken?
Yeah. So I think, there's the things that guide Asaf and myself when building the team, and then there that lead us when we think about how we include the team in the decisions and what's happening with the company. So in terms of building the team, obviously, everyone are looking, especially for this core initial team of a startup, for great people who have strong technical skills, that have a good understanding of the space we're in. And again, we are very fortunate to come from backgrounds where these people, we've worked with these people. We know most of the team we knew firsthand when they joined the company. But what was also important for us, and that required us to go a bit outside the box, is to have a team that is diverse. And that comes from backgrounds that are not just similar to ours. So we are almost 50-50 from a gender perspective, which was something that was important for both Asaf and myself to be able to achieve. And as you might expect, it's not that we came from organizations that were 50-50. So it did require us to be more focused on these hiring goals, for example. And then from an internal perspective, we are strong believers in transparency and visibility. Just to give one example, every board meeting we have, between a day or a week after, we basically do like a rerun of the board meeting internally for the team, because they are a stakeholder in the company. And there's no reason for them not to understand where we're at, what's working, what doesn't work. Other than seeing personal details of other employees, we want them to understand what's going on with the company, where we're headed, what are we doing well towards that goal, and what can we improve on? Because the best way to achieve those goals is to have them be a part of them and make sure that they are tuned towards the same the same target.
I think that's very, very cool. And so I love that we've spent so much of the time talking about your journey and the type of organization you're building, because I think really that's perhaps the most important piece here. But I don't want to leave without also getting a good understanding of what it is that you actually do today with Eureka and the product and the offering. So share with me a little bit about what Eureka is all about.
Yeah. So we talked before about the challenges of data. So these challenges aren't just unique for companies as large as Microsoft or Palo Alto Networks. With the cloud revolution and transformation that has happened over the last decade, and the data transformation that is still happening with the variety of AI tools that are available for different organizations, and now even more so with LLM models becoming available, organizations are storing more and more data in higher levels of sensitivity and in a larger variety of cloud and data storage technologies. And that creates quite the complexity for cloud security teams. You need to be able to develop the level of expertise. You need to understand where data is. You need to be able to classify the data and understand what it is. You need to be able to unravel all the different access mechanisms to understand who actually has access to data and which entities are third-party applications or service accounts and so on. So our goal is really to support these organizations in their journey to support the business, and to eliminate that inherent trade-off that they have between securing the data and allowing it to be used. So we say, allow the data to be used. We'll make sure you have the right guardrails around the data to keep it.
Incredible. Liat, thank you so much. Thank you. I'm leaving this conversation more inspired than I came into it with, which is my personal fulfillment from doing this. So I really appreciate it. I'm excited to see where you're heading with Eureka and with every other endeavor. I think you really embody the type of entrepreneur that I wish to be, and you embody, I think, a really awesome part of sort of the startup ecosystem in Israel, but in general. So thank you very, very much, and best of luck.